Hi guys! Today our topic is how aircraft carriers work. Before watching this video, you should hit the like button and subscribe to watch fantastic videos to enhance your knowledge. Aircraft carriers can legally position themselves up to 14 miles or 22 kilometers from any country's coast. 80% of the world's population lives within 60 miles or 100 kilometers from the ocean. At present, there are only 19 aircraft carriers in service worldwide capable of launching fixed-wing airplanes. Aircraft carriers require over 6,000 individuals to operate and often remain deployed for up to a year. Every 30 seconds, the most advanced carriers can launch an aircraft. The offensive weapon of an aircraft carrier is its aircraft. Typically, carrier strike groups are composed of a guided missile cruiser fitted with Tomahawk missiles. Carriers tend to only have a small number of weapons on board that are defensive. An aircraft carrier's command area involves a flag bridge where an admiral commands the entire strike group. There is a combination of offensive and defensive roles for each of the group's ships. All 11 American and French carriers are nuclear-powered, meaning they can sail an unlimited distance without refueling for 25 years. While hypothetically an American or French carrier could sail non-stop for years or even decades, what they can't do is carry enough food, which is always needed, and aviation fuel, which is required for combat operations, to stay at sea for more than a couple of weeks at a time. It would be inefficient and put the carriers in a vulnerable position to visit a port every few weeks to replenish, particularly during combat operations, so that they do not replenish while at sea. Supply ships will sail off to a nearby port as part of the strike group, sail back to the strike group, then match speed and maneuver alongside the carrier to take on fuel, ammunition, food, and mail. The two ships will shoot lines towards each other from there. These lines are used to pull hoses that are used to transfer aviation fuel over to the carrier. There are two other techniques to transfer solid supplies. The first is to attach pallets to dollies that carry wheel cargo through to the carrier, such as with a zip line. The second method is to use helicopters to pick up pallets from the resupply ship and fly them over to the carrier, which is considered simpler yet more hazardous. These transfers bring both essential supplies such as food and some less important items such as mail. But this is not the only way American aircraft carriers receive mail. Just like any building in the US, each carrier actually has a mailing address. Currently, American carriers use the C-2 Greyhound fleet as cargo aircraft, providing a high-frequency, often daily link between carriers and the shore. For transporting mail, spare parts, and VIPs to and from aircraft carriers, C-2 Greyhounds are used. The aircraft size is roughly the same as the Embraer 145, a civilian aircraft capable of carrying 50 people. Mail is the lowest priority cargo for an aircraft used to transport spare parts for an aircraft carrier. At 1,106 feet, or 337 meters long, the USS Gerald R. Ford is the world's longest aircraft carrier. A runway of 5,000 feet or 1,500 meters is considered short for commercial airports. All WE and French carriers use a catapult system to get aircraft up to takeoff speed in 3 to 4 seconds. This enables these carriers, like the C-2 Greyhound, to launch decently sized aircraft with their relatively short decks. Other carriers do not have catapults, such as the Chinese and Indian ones, to only launch larger, shorter-range aircraft capable of taking off on a very short runway. With the short distance given, both types of carriers have arrestor wires that aircraft catch on landing to decelerate. Only aircraft capable of vertical landing can operate with any other aircraft carrier out there. Carefully choreographed chaos is what takes place on the flight deck. The job of everyone on American carriers is easily recognizable by the color shirt they wear. Yellow shirts deal with airplane navigation around the deck. Blue shirts are yellow shirt assistants that drive tugs, operate elevators, deliver messages, and more. Red shirts do all the ammunition handlings and mounting. Purple shirts manage the fueling of airplanes. A few distinct groups, such as catapult crews, maintenance personnel, cargo handlers, and more, wear green shirts. A mix of personnel, including those helping aircraft land, working as medical personnel, and more, also wear white shirts. Finally, brown shirts are worn by aircraft captains, who are not those flying the aircraft. They are individually responsible for overseeing all work to prepare an aircraft for flight. Considering its small size, the flight deck is a dangerous place. It is so small that not all the carrier's aircraft can fit on it, but just below it, of course. The hangar is the flight deck. Up to 100 aircraft can carry a large carrier. About 6,000 people work aboard each American carrier and live there. Of those, 3,200 have jobs related to running the vessel itself. As all the above-deck space is used for flight operations, many jobs are below deck. Aside from the US, aircraft carriers are still used by every operating country. There's almost certainly an American carrier cruising somewhere in the world at any given moment. In a room with more than 100 others, enlisted personnel often have a single bunk. For a fourth function, power projection, the US tends to use its carriers. In fact, January 2017 was the first time that no American aircraft carrier was on deployment since World War II. Even if an aircraft carrier has not been deployed, they're fast. They have a top speed of 35 miles or 56 kilometers per hour, which means that a carrier based in Norfolk, Virginia, could reach the Middle East in just a week. In November 2017, this reached a peak as tensions with North Korea reached a peak when 3 American carriers loomed near the shores of Korea. However, aircraft carriers with their enormous power represent an enormous target, especially in the era of stealthy drones and accurate rockets. In addition to the loss of tens of billions of dollars in military assets, the sinking of a single U.S. aircraft carrier could result in more American military deaths than the entire Iraq War. Although no aircraft carrier in any country has been sunk since the Second World War, it is potentially more feasible than one would think. U.S. carriers regularly participate in war games where fighting conditions with allies are simulated. In 2005 and 2015, 2 incidents involving Swedish and French submarines, respectively, won games against U.S. carriers. This means that the submarines of the 2 countries approached the carriers closely enough where, if they were an enemy in real combat, they could have launched torpedoes and potentially sink the carriers. This, in essence, proves that with all their defense, aircraft carriers are not as unsinkable as some may say. Meanwhile, the U.S. has already received the first of 10 in a new class of carriers. In contrast, China, India, and the UK each have carriers under construction, so we can be sure, despite their possible obsolescence, that the aircraft carrier will not leave the oceans of the world shortly. Hey guys, so if you enjoyed the video, click on the like button, subscribe to our channel, and press the bell icon to get the regular updates to watch more such informative videos.